sound of sirens shattered the peace of Maple Lane. It was one of those golden hour evenings, the kind that made everything glow, soft and warm. The lawns were trimmed, sprinklers hissed, and kids were biking home from school. But then came the scream. "Why are you taking my son?" Linda Carter ran barefoot across her driveway, her heart pounding like thunder. Her 17-year-old boy, Ethan, stood in front of their house, wrists locked in silver handcuffs that glinted in the fading sunlight. His hoodie, bright red, looked almost like a warning sign against the calm suburban sky. A police officer held him firmly by the shoulder. "Ma'am, step back, please." "Step back? He's a kid. Tell me what's going on." Ethan's voice was small but shaking. "Mom, I swear I didn't do anything." And then there was her, Mrs. Gladys Monroe, the head of the Homeowners Association. She stood a few feet away, holding her red binder titled Show Rules. Her perfectly styled silver hair gleamed as she pointed toward Ethan like she was declaring war. "He broke the rules!" she shouted. "I told you. That boy vandalized community property. He needs to learn a lesson." Windows opened. Doors creaked. Neighbors peeked out from behind curtains. Linda could feel their eyes, judgmental, curious, and silent. Even Mr. Grant, the man from next door, stood with his arms crossed, watching like it wasn't his problem. "Ma'am," the officer repeated, "we received a report of vandalism. There's video evidence?" "Video evidence?" Linda's voice cracked. "Of what? Of my son walking home from school?" Ethan turned to the officer, eyes wide. "That's not me in the video. I was at the library." The officer sighed. He looked tired, like someone just doing his job. "We'll sort it out downtown." And just like that, the boy who had never been in trouble, the one who mowed lawns for neighbors and tutored kids in math, was led away in handcuffs. When the police car pulled away, silence fell over Maple Lane again. The golden light had turned harsh, shadows stretching long across the lawns. Linda stood frozen, her heart breaking in slow motion. Gladys Monroe flipped her binder shut with a loud snap. "Maybe now he'll learn to respect the rules around here." Linda's eyes filled with tears. "He's 17, not a criminal." "Rules are rules," Gladys said coldly. "He painted graffiti on the new community sign. There's proof." But something didn't add up. Ethan wasn't the kind of kid who'd spray paint anything. He barely remembered to water the plants. That night, Linda sat at her kitchen table with a cup of untouched coffee, scrolling through her phone. And there it was, a post on the neighborhood's private app. Her son's face was blurred, but she knew it was him. Her hands trembled as she typed a comment. "That's my son. He didn't do this." Within minutes, replies flooded in. "Then why did the police arrest him? Maybe teach your kid some respect. He always seemed suspicious." Her vision blurred with tears. This wasn't just about Ethan anymore. It was about how quickly people believed a lie when it made them feel righteous. There was a knock at the door. Linda opened it to find Mark. The quiet man from 2 houses down, the one who had just been watching. He looked uncomfortable, holding his baseball cap in both hands. "Linda, I don't think your boy did it." She blinked. "Then why didn't you say something?" "I wasn't sure," he said softly. "But I saw a car near the community sign last night. It wasn't Ethan's." "Did you tell the police?" He hesitated. "No. Mrs. Monroe got there first. She said she had security footage, so they believed her." Linda's stomach turned. Gladys Monroe, the woman who ran the HOA, like a queen, had the power to make anyone guilty if she wanted to. Mark continued, "If you want, I'll help you check the community cameras. Maybe we can find something." For the first time that night, Linda felt a flicker of hope. At midnight, Linda and Mark drove to the HOA office, a small building behind the tennis courts. It was locked, of course, but Mark worked part-time maintenance. He had a key. Inside, the air smelled like coffee and disinfectant. A single monitor showed the neighborhood feed, the cameras that watched everyone, all the time. Mark clicked through the footage. "This is from last night." They watched as the community sign appeared on screen, new, white, spotless. Then, around 9:30 p.m., headlights flashed. A dark SUV pulled up. A tall figure got out wearing a red hoodie. Linda gasped. "See? They think that's Ethan. He has one like that." But as the figure moved closer, the light caught his face for a split second. It wasn't Ethan. The man was older. Maybe in his late 20s, and he had a tattoo on his neck. Mark froze the frame. "That's not your son," Linda whispered. "Oh my God!" She pulled out her phone, snapped a picture of the screen. Her hands were shaking. "They arrested the wrong person. I have to show this to the police." But then, just as they turned to leave, the monitor flickered. Another window popped up and a second camera angle. It showed the same SUV parked outside. Gladys Monroe's house 10 minutes before the vandalism. Linda stared at the screen. She knew him. Mark's eyes widened. "Looks like your HOA queen has something to hide." Suddenly, footsteps echoed outside the office. A voice, sharp, female, familiar. "Who's in there?" "Gladys Monroe." Linda's heart raced. She whispered, "She can't know we were here." Mark shut off the monitor and killed the lights. They slipped out the back door just as Gladys's key turned in the front lock. The night air was cold. Linda's breath came fast. Mark whispered, "We just found something big." Linda clutched her phone. The photo glowing faintly on the screen, proof of her son's innocence. And as they drove off into the darkness, she didn't realize that someone, somewhere, was already watching her, but the next morning, the neighborhood looked exactly the same. Same manicured lawns, same trimmed hedges, same silence. But Linda Carter was no longer the same woman. Her son was sitting in a cold holding cell downtown, and somewhere inside this perfect neighborhood, a lie was rotting everything from within. Linda stood in her kitchen clutching her phone, the blurry image of the man with the neck tattoo glowing on the screen. She whispered to herself, "You're not going to get away with this, Gladys." A mother on a mission. By 8 a.m., she was already at the police station. The desk officer looked up as she approached, exhausted but determined. "Ma'am, I already told you," he began. "Your son will see a judge tomorrow morning. He's being charged with vandalism and—" Linda cut him off. "He didn't do it. I have proof." She placed her phone on the counter. "That's the real guy who did it. Look at the tattoo, look at the car." The officer leaned forward. "Where'd you get this?" "The HOA security footage." He frowned. "You accessed HOA footage without permission?" Linda felt her chest tighten. "Are you seriously going to arrest me for trying to prove my son's innocence?" Before he could answer, a familiar voice echoed across the lobby. Well, Mrs. Carter, causing more trouble already?" Gladys Monroe walked in, red suit immaculate, binder in hand, lips curved in a smirk. "What are you doing here?" Linda hissed. Gladys turned to the officer. "Officer Reed, please don't take this woman seriously. She's been harassing members of the HOA and spreading lies. My footage was already submitted as evidence." The officer looked between them. "If that's the case, ma'am, we'll review everything again." "Please let the system work." Linda's voice trembled. "The system?" "The system already handcuffed my son for nothing." Hours later, Linda sat in her car outside the police station. Her hands shook as she dialed Mark. "She's trying to bury this," Linda said. "She's connected to that guy somehow." Mark's voice came through the speaker. "You think he works for her?" "I think he does her dirty work," Linda said, her tone cold. "And I'm going to prove it." Mark hesitated. "We have to be careful. If she finds out we're digging into her—" "She already knows," Linda interrupted. "So we dig faster." That afternoon, they met again, this time behind the community clubhouse. The same place where Gladys held her HOA meetings, complete with cookies and control. Mark had a backpack with him. "You're not going to believe what I found," he said. He pulled out a small plastic bag containing crumpled papers, receipts, old notes, and at the bottom, a parking ticket. Linda looked closer. The ticket was for the same night as the vandalism. The car listed? A black SUV. The driver's name? Derek Monroe. Linda's eyes widened. Her son. Mark nodded. He's got a record too. Minor stuff. DUI, trespassing. I checked. The public database. So that's it, Linda whispered. She's protecting her own kid, and she pinned it on mine. The setup. Linda's plan formed fast. If Gladys wanted to play dirty, fine. But this time, Linda would have witnesses. The next HOA meeting was that night. Gladys held them in her living room, inviting only the responsible residents. the ones too polite to question her authority. Linda showed up uninvited. As soon as she walked in, whispers started. "Isn't that the mother of the boy who—" "Did you hear what he did to the sign?" "Poor thing, she still thinks he's innocent." Gladys appeared at the top of the stairs, smiling like a politician. "Mrs. Carter, this is a private meeting." "Then let's make it public," Linda said. She pulled out her phone, hitting record. "Because everyone here deserves to know the truth." The room fell silent. "Your footage, the one you gave the police," Linda said. Her voice steady was edited. Gasps echoed. Gladys's face tightened. "That's a very serious accusation." "Not as serious as framing a teenager," Linda shot back. "The man in that video isn't my son. It's your son, Derek." The name landed like a thunderclap. "You think you can walk in here and accuse my family?" Gladys snapped. "I don't think," Linda said. "I know." She turned her phone to the crowd, showing the frozen image of the tattooed man beside the vandalized sign. "Recognize him?" Someone in the back murmured, "That's Derek." Gladys's lips pressed into a thin line. "You're done here." Two men, HOA volunteers, stepped forward to escort Linda out. But before they could, the front door opened. It was Mark, holding a printed copy of the parking ticket. He raised it for everyone to see. Derek Monroe. Black SUV, same night, same location. Gladys's face drained of color. Linda's voice softened, but her eyes were fierce. "You wanted to teach someone a lesson, Gladys. But maybe the lesson was for you." Neighbors began murmuring. Someone started recording. Gladys tried to speak, but the words tangled in her throat. "Enough!" she finally shouted. "You people don't know what it's like. I built this community. I kept it safe." Linda's voice broke. "By destroying my son's life?" For a long moment, no one said a word. Then Mark stepped forward, phone in hand. "I'm sending this to the police." Gladys lunged, but he pulled back. "Try it," he said calmly. "You're done." The collapse. That night, police cars once again filled Maple Lane, but this time, they stopped in front of Gladys Monroe's house. Neighbors gathered silently as officers walked her son, Derek, out in handcuffs. He didn't resist, just kept his eyes down, ashamed. Gladys stood in the doorway, face pale, hands trembling. Linda watched from across the street. The irony hit hard. The same flashing lights. The same cuffs, but now on the real culprit. Officer Reed approached her quietly. "Mrs. Carter, we owe you and your son an apology." Linda swallowed the lump in her throat. "Just make it right." The next morning, Ethan walked out of the police station, free. Linda ran to him, wrapping her arms around him so tightly he could barely breathe. "Mom, it's okay," he whispered. But it wasn't okay, not yet. The damage was done, the whispers, the judgment, the betrayal. As they drove home, Ethan stared out the window. "They all thought I did it." Linda reached for his hand. "Then let's make them see who you really are." Later that week, Linda received an email from the HOA. Subject line, "Notice of violation." She opened it, a formal letter stating she had broken community rules by accessing security footage and disrupting order. Her lips curled into a small smile. She replied, "Thank you for your notice. Consider this my resignation from your HOA. I'll be forming a new community group, one based on truth." She hit send. Ethan looked up from across the table. "You're really doing it?" Linda nodded. "Someone has to show them what real community means." That evening, the sun dipped low again over Maple Lane, the same golden hour, but everything felt different. The once perfect street had cracks now, but maybe cracks were good. They let the light in. Mark joined Linda on her porch. "You did it," he said. She smiled faintly. "No, we did." Across the street, Gladys's red suit flashed briefly in the window as she closed her blinds. For the first time in years, her house looked small. They say the truth sets you free, but nobody talks about the price you pay for it. For Linda Carter, that price was peace. Ever since Gladys Monroe's arrest, Maple Lane had split in two, the ones who supported Linda and the ones who whispered behind closed doors that she went too far. The perfect neighborhood wasn't perfect anymore, and maybe that was okay. The quiet after the storm. A week after everything, Linda stood in her backyard, watching Ethan throw a baseball into the air. No cops, no flashing lights, No cameras watching every move, just the sound of her son's laughter. Something she thought she'd lost forever. "Feels good to breathe again, huh?" she said softly. Ethan caught the ball and smiled. "Yeah, but I still see their faces sometimes, the way they looked at me." Linda's eyes softened. People are scared of what they don't understand. They believe lies because lies are easier than truth. He nodded slowly. "So what do we do now?" She smiled. "We live, and we keep the truth alive." A knock on the door. That evening someone knocked. Linda opened the door and froze. It was Gladys Monroe. No red suit this time, just a pale sweater and tired eyes. "I shouldn't be here," she began. "But I needed to say something." Linda crossed her arms. "You said enough when you lied about my son." "I know," Gladys whispered. "And I'm sorry." Silence. The kind that cuts deeper than shouting. "I was protecting my own kid," Gladys said. "But I destroyed yours. I see that now." Linda wanted to scream, to slam the door, to make her feel what she felt. But instead, she said softly, "Then start fixing it. Tell the truth publicly." Gladys nodded. "I will. I already spoke to the news. They're running the real story tomorrow." She turned to leave. "For what it's worth." "You were right." As she walked away, Linda realized something. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It meant choosing peace when anger would have been easier. The next morning, the local news played a segment titled, "Mother Clears Son's Name in HOA Scandal." Footage showed Linda outside her home, speaking calmly. No parent should ever have to prove their child's innocence because of someone else's pride. Ethan stood beside her, smiling shyly at the camera. For once, people saw him for who he really was. Not a suspect, but a survivor. The video went viral in their town within hours. Comments flooded in. "Proud of this mom. Justice finally served." This story hits hard. Linda didn't care about fame. She cared about the message. That evening, she sat on her porch again, watching the sunset burn gold over Maple Lane. Mark joined her, sipping coffee. "So," he said, "what now? You going to keep fighting HOA battles?" Linda laughed softly. "No, bigger ones. I'm starting a support group for parents dealing with wrongful accusations." Mark smiled. "Of course you are." She shrugged. "Someone's got to make noise for those who can't." They sat in silence, watching kids ride their bikes down the same street where Ethan had been handcuffed just days ago. Life moved on, but differently. Later that night, as the streetlights flickered on, Linda opened her window and looked out. The same police car that once took her son away now drove slowly by. Peaceful, ordinary. She whispered to herself, "The truth doesn't just free one person. It changes everyone who dares to believe it." If this story moved you, take a second to think about it. How often do we judge before we know the truth? Don't let silence win. Stand up when something feels wrong, because sometimes the only difference between justice and injustice is one person brave enough to speak up, share this story, and remind the world that truth still matters.